Chin tucks are frequently advised to combat what's called forward head posture. Today, we're going to examine the reasoning behind chin tucks and see if this exercise makes sense. To combat forward head posture, we are told to move our head backwards in space so that the back of the head is in line with the back of the body. I don't think that makes much sense, as you will have to rotate the top of your rib cage back and down to do that, and so you will end up arching your back and pushing your belly forward. But that is what is claimed to be right by most people in the posture world. So let's accept that model for now, just for argument's sake. The issue is that if you tell someone to pull their head back to get the back of their head lined up with their back, they will usually tip their head back. Everyone agrees that this is not desirable, and yet still you'll find that many example pictures and demonstrations of people lining up the back of their head and their back against a wall show this tipping back of the head. Those who are more precise will tell you that you need to do a chin tuck while you bring your head back. They'll also give you the direction to lift the back of your head in order to get the muscles that connect the neck and the back of the head to lengthen. This idea of lifting the back of the head actually does make sense. We can understand the reasoning quite easily. A person whose head is habitually lowered will need to crank their neck back in order to look straight ahead. Doing that will crunch the muscles here at the back of the head and into the neck. If you lift the back of the head while pushing the chin back, you'll get a rotation of the head that will lengthen the muscles at the back of the neck and head. But if you think about this for a moment, you might notice that something is off here. The goal is to better use these muscles at the back of the head and neck. So take a moment and think. See if you can figure out why a chin tuck really doesn't make sense here. If you'd like, pause the video and give it some thought. One thing seems obvious. Doing a chin tuck will help get a bigger rotation of the head and will help push the back of the head up. Yet I would say a chin tuck will undermine a basic premise of the exercise. Did you figure out the issue? How do we pull our chin back? We use the muscles on the side of the neck and head to pull the jaw back. If our goal is to use the muscles at the back of the head and neck to lift the back of the head, why are we using these muscles at the side of the jaw to make this movement? Using the chin tuck to get this rotation going is really a way of avoiding using the muscles at the back of the neck and head. A way of getting the rotation they say is desirable without using the muscles they say you want to use. You will, however, see a larger rotation of the head if you do a chin tuck. So it's easy to see why people would be fooled into thinking that this is a sign that the chin tuck is helping. But using this retraction of the jaw to push the back of the head up will train the muscles that retract the jaw, not the muscles at the back of the neck and head. You know, the ones we're supposed to be using. You will not be training these muscles to pull the back of the head up. You will be teaching yourself that lifting the back of the head is done by retracting the jaw. What's even more bizarre is that obviously we don't want the double chin that is produced by a correctly performed chin tuck. Those who support chin tucks say this all the time. They say, don't worry that the exercise is forming a double chin. That's just part of the exercise. It's not the actual position you would want to hold your head. It's obviously not good posture. Which is to say that ultimately we need to be able to lift the back of the head without using the chin to help us. So why would the advice be to repeatedly practice pulling the chin back to strengthen that pattern of movement that we don't need, rather than just lifting the back of the head? What if we changed this procedure and said we want to lift the back of the head while refusing to allow the chin to move back at all? Then we would be forced to engage the muscles at the back of the neck and head, which is what those who support this concept say is the point of the exercise. We would also have to lengthen the muscles of the head and neck from front to back. That length will be necessary, won't it? Unless we want to have a double chin, we have to learn to raise the back of the head while keeping the chin where it is. Why pull all the muscles in the same direction? That won't produce lengthening. It might produce a bigger movement, but only because you're producing an obviously undesirable movement in pulling the chin back and making a double chin. Once you stop the chin tuck, Either everything will go back to where it was, or you will keep your chin retracted, because you haven't produced any new length. But some might say that they don't just want to affect the muscles at the back of the head and neck, that the chin tuck is to strengthen the muscles that pull the head back, since they believe that the head needs to be back. However, the same problem still exists. If you want to be able to keep your chin forward while engaging the muscles that pull the head and neck back, which must be the ultimate goal unless you want a double chin, you need length in these muscles that connect the front and the back of the head. If you constantly practice shortening the muscles of the neck in order to strengthen them, you will never get that length. This trouble all stems from a naive view of how muscles work. If you believe that muscles need to be built up by being pushed into a shortening contraction, this chin tuck might make sense to you. But are strong and shortened muscles what we want? Or do we want to coordinate movements that will lengthen the muscles as they're engaged? I would say, even from the perspective of someone who believes in this idea of forward head posture, chin tucks do not make sense. But of course, there's an even deeper problem here. There is no reason to pull the back of your head back to line it up with your back. These silly exercises rarely make mention of the torso. As I said earlier, if you pull your head back to line it up with your back, your midsection will go forward. You will essentially arch your back. That makes your thoracolumbar fascia, which goes up and down your spine, limp instead of taut. But since the focus is on the head, the rest of the body is ignored. This is why reasoning about these things is so important. People have a personal experience of their body, but often they have no idea how to reason about these things, so they assume the experts must be right. When the so-called experts about posture say you want to have your head pulled way back like this, most people wouldn't know where to begin if they wanted to argue to the contrary. Even the experts themselves often have not reasoned about these things. They were taught that head back is good, so they accept it as a fact. But obviously, it's impossible to have a postural problem in just one part of the body. It's ridiculous to think that your head could be out of place, but that would have no effect on your torso. Your torso, or really your whole body, is going to have to compensate for the head, or any other part of the body, being out of place. So how could an actually useful exercise totally ignore the rest of the body? Again, it only makes sense if you have a naive view of how muscles work. In the model I advocate for, the ear should be in line with the front of the ribcage and pelvis, and the back of the jaw should be in front of the ribcage and pelvis. Some people bristle at this and think I'm saying forward head posture is good. But if you look at people with forward head posture, you will never see them satisfying those criteria. Though to be clear, the position of the head relative to the torso is not everything. The condition of the torso itself is even more important. I understand that this different model is hard for people to wrap their heads around at first. I'm saying something that most people have never heard before. But if we return to the exercise of lifting the back of the head, what if you did not have the commandment to pull the head back? What if you lifted the back of the head up, but also forward? What if you moved the front of the head, the face, forward, and the bottom of the jaw up, while moving the lower sternum and the lower end of the ribcage back? Then you could coordinate a movement of the head with a movement of the ribcage, and lengthen your back, and lengthen your neck. Really, focusing on the torso prior to doing this exercise is necessary, as you need the support from your thoracolumbar fascia to hold your head forward and up. But I think you can get the idea regardless. If we aren't hamstrung by the false assumption that the head is supposed to be massively retracted along with the upper end of the ribcage, we can reason out what will actually get us out of the harmful habits that cause this undesirable position of the head, which is often called forward head posture. And doing that will require us to adjust more than just our head. Those supporting the standard model of posture and the concept of forward head posture are not reasoning out their position. If they were, they would recognize the problems that exist in their chin tuck exercise, even if we assume that their general model is correct. If they can't figure that out, we can't expect them to ever figure out that their unreasoned assumption that the head must be pulled back and not allowed to go forward is wrong too. That's why developing your ability to reason about movements is crucial. If you just accept the easy answers that are out there, you're going to practice silly things like chin tucks and end up doing more damage than good with your interventions. So this year, the theme of the channel is going to be reasoning about movements. How do we take this kind of ethereal personal subject of moving our body and develop a means by which we can speak about it, reason about it, and actually understand what we're doing? You're welcome to come back to this channel, where we dispel the commonly believed but erroneous ideas around posture and work towards developing a comprehensive, reasoned approach to better posture.